You know those movie scenes where the character has some sort of anxiety and there's characters swirling around above their heads saying judgmental things about what they're doing and it makes them not want to do it? That's the experience I just had about making this video. We're doing something different today. I promise my next video will be a food-related video, most definitely an Indian food-related video, but for this week I am doing something different. The reason I have so much anxiety about this is because I don't like getting too serious on here, but my last video was my 30th video. Pretty much have now been doing this for 6.5 months, which is like nothing in the grand scheme of things or compared to other YouTubers out there, but I thought it might be a good time to do a little roundup of what I've learned so far, or some of the best lessons I've learned, I guess, from doing this, because I actually think there are quite a few valuable things to be shared here. And they're not necessarily anything new, it's just my little personal bundle to offer you if you are considering starting a channel yourself, or you're just curious. I don't know. This is stuff that could be useful for anything. So let's get into it. First things first, and this is specifically about starting a YouTube channel. You're not gonna get famous in the first 2 months. Like I really wanted to believe I would. I'm a realistic person, but something happened where I really wanted to believe that that was going to be the case. I guess it was mostly for fun, mostly to see if it actually could happen. But you will soon learn, once you get started, that YouTube, and I mean the internet in general really, is an infinite soulless feedback loop of shock value and physical attractiveness. That's kind of a cynical outlook, but it's true. Most of the time, I hate to say. Main point here being that it's not going to be a fairy tale story for you, most likely. The people who just kind of burst into the YouTube stratosphere within a couple months of doing it, or even less in some cases, are sorry, I just got a really ridiculous Hinge message. I'm gonna flip my phone over now. Those people are the exception to the rule. Obviously, it's like anything that's statistically very unlikely to happen, like being a rock star or an actor or an astronaut or anything. Although the journey to becoming an astronaut is like obscenely more difficult objectively than doing something like this, obviously. But yeah, same thing applies here. It's not going to happen for you, most likely. Just embrace that initially. Like, it won't happen that quickly. If you work hard and you're consistent and you are committed for a long time, it's much more likely that something will happen, but it will most likely be gradual. That was the first lesson that I got to learn. The next thing I learned was being in front of a camera and seeing yourself regularly from the outside gives you a lot of things that you can choose to work on. And I'm not talking about like physical traits. I'm talking about mannerisms, the way you speak, like, etc.
We saw that one travel case resulted in many cases of the UK variant in and around Barrie and expanding.
How you formulate thoughts out loud, basically. I have a list of like 15 things that I cannot stand about myself that I've noticed only since starting to do this, because otherwise I had no experience seeing myself talk or move around or anything. So it's super weird, but I would say that it's a very helpful experience if you're, I don't know, if you're just like curious about how you come across and you just want to like improve how you present yourself and how you feel about yourself. Because it's weird, because like after the initial realization, you go through a dip in confidence because you're like, I didn't know there were so many things that are very unappealing about me. But then once you learn to control those things better, if you want to, like if it's something that genuinely just bothers you to see, then it actually helps you feel more secure in yourself and your personality, because you have learned how to come across the way you want to, and that makes you more confident. Not to say that I have overcome all of the things on my list yet. For example, I'm still taking long pauses, saying a lot, like a lot, probably too, talking too quietly when I'm nervous. Yeah. And if I ever like take a longer break in making a video, I'll lose my awareness of those things and they'll come back and I'll have to reintegrate them in my mind. But it's quite an eye-opening experience, to say the least. The next thing I learned is that comedy is a much bigger part of my life than I thought it was, or it's something that I value in my life much more than I realized I did. I don't know, it's weird because I think in my own mind and with people that I'm really close to, I seem very serious, and I am very serious, but on a more superficial level or on like a wider basis in my interaction with people, I definitely prefer humor and like lightheartedness, especially when it comes to online life. Like my Instagram personality has always been very jokey. Most of the stories I post are meant to be funny. Like I just don't really get earnest very often online, which is very different from what I'm doing today, and that's why I'm uncomfortable. But it was interesting that doing this kind of enlightened me to that. It was like, once I fell into the more comedic style of video, I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. But before then, I didn't necessarily realize, like I had no idea what I was gonna do or what my focus was gonna be. And then it was when I made that Tiffany Ferg, I tried to be like Tiffany Ferg video, where I was trying to make an informative video and it was just a huge mess. And then when I was editing, I realized that I could just make it a blooper reel, and it was just so funny to me in that moment. It's not as funny to me now looking back. Like when I rewatch it, it's pretty bad, but it was like such an obvious solution, and I just had so much more fun with it. And even with the first couple videos that I did, the vlogs, I was definitely going for a comedic angle there as well. I don't know what my hair is doing. So yeah, YouTube helps you figure out what is important to you, what you really enjoy. And also it just naturally comes. Like again, it was in a moment where I was trying to do one thing, it failed, and then I ended up doing another thing. So like, don't be afraid to just try stuff out and see what happens. The next lesson, manifestation works. This is a funny one for me because when I first heard about The Secret, the law of attraction, whatever, it was first presented to me in that documentary that, if you know anything about this, you know about. And I found it pretty ridiculous. I was 100% skeptical about it. But, you know, this past year has been interesting, and you could say has opened me up to schools of thought that I may have not been quite so open to before. Actually, no, I think I had started being more curious about it over the last few years, but definitely got like way more into it in the last little while. And I would say out of curiosity, I would say like a lighthearted curiosity as to if it actually works. Like, why not try it and see what happens, see if it works. And interestingly enough, I was looking through my YouTube stats, and only pretty recently, like sometime in the last few weeks, realized that my most popular video was posted exactly 2 months after I started my YouTube, after my first YouTube post. And I had been trying to manifest like serious popularity within 2 months. And so it didn't fully work, but that my most popular video is my most popular by far, because I it has a very searchable title, apparently. I actually was feeling really crappy about that video too. I was like, oh, this is the worst video I've done. It was the least amount of time I'd ever spent on a video. I filmed it in like 10 minutes. I was not having it that day. I was really tired and stressed out, and I was just like trying to finish my day. And that became my most popular video. So there was definitely no like intent with that video in particular to make it be the one, and I had like forgotten about the 2-month thing at that point, or like I didn't realize that it would be posted exactly on the 2-month mark. So that's the really crazy thing there, which I'm not gonna get into like the specifics of manifestation, but I think it still proves a little bit that it might have worked, because even though I didn't get the thing that I was trying to manifest. The thing I was trying to manifest was like very up there. It was very ambitious, and I don't think I fully believed it. So maybe that's part of why it only partially worked. But I'm still experimenting, so we'll see. So yeah, look into that if you're interested. Also, another thing that I came across recently, which like blew my mind and made me think, no, like something's going on here. There's a colonial woman on the wing.
There's a woman on the wing. I saw her. There is something they're not telling us.
I was watching an interview with Nadia Comaneci. How do I not know how to say her name right when I'm Romanian? Anyway, I got it off into a gymnastics tangent a little while ago on YouTube, and I was watching an interview with her, and if you don't know, she's a famous Romanian gymnast who I was obsessed with when I was a kid. Like, I came across some documentary or some special on her or something that we had on VHS, and I watched it over and over and over and over. And so I guess I like reignited that obsession. Anyway, I was watching this interview with her, and they were talking about, I don't remember the specifics, but something to do with the numbers around the year of the Olympics that she got the perfect 10, and all of these ways that the numbers like all were the same, like something, no, I can't remember. I'll link it with a time marked for you to see where they're talking about that, and it's just insane. Somebody out there explain it to me in terms of just randomness and coincidence, please. Actually don't, no, because I want to believe it's true. And the last two things, which I would say are the biggest and most important things, and this is in terms of if you're having any sort of trouble with motivation or commitment to things, especially related to like freelance work or self-motivated work. Something, let's say, that requires long-term commitment. It's kind of daunting, it's intimidating, it's something that you don't necessarily believe you're capable of doing. I found in my experience with YouTube that placing bets with yourself really works. Like turning it into a game of, can I do this? I'd like to believe that I can do this, and I want to prove to myself that I can do it. And that's what I did with YouTube. With, I think the 2-month thing was like my minimum time where I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for 2 months. I'm going to put out a video every week for 2 months, see what happens, try and manifest popularity, and then we'll go from there. And now it's 6 months later, and I'm still doing it because I don't know, it's kind of like once you prove a smaller goal or a smaller bet to yourself, then you kind of want to just keep going, and you want to keep one-upping yourself and seeing how much better you can do or how much longer you can go for or whatever. It's like with anything. So that has been cool to realize. Always trying to keep things fun and twisting things in a way that feels more of like a game is really helpful, because it kind of strips away all the gravity of like really big goals that might feel just too daunting to even attempt. So the whole placing a bet with yourself thing might be a good way to like get you to jump off that ledge and get you to start. And so in relation to that, this is kind of more specifically down the line sort of thing. If placing a bet with yourself is a good way to start, but also to keep it going, depending on if your bet has to do with how long you can do something for. The process of maintaining a YouTube channel has been such a good lesson in learning the importance of this thing that like we've all heard before. This is nothing new. Consistency and small goals and small steps and small deadlines is the antidote to perfectionism and imposter syndrome. When you focus on whether it's daily goals or weekly goals, that has been the thing with YouTube for me that has helped me keep doing it. Making the commitment that I was going to put out a video every week has been such a useful thing in terms of, like, I basically can't give myself any excuses for not putting out a video that week. And it just makes it so simple. It's like, okay, I have to do this. It's like if I was employed and I had to turn in something every week, I would have to do it. No conception of how perfect it was, or how I'm not qualified enough to do it, or I'm not talented enough to do it, or whatever would fly if it was something that I literally had to do for my job. So if you just treat your own goals about whatever it is you want to do the same way, it eliminates those things. Like, just don't make it an option. Just do it. Like, I actually really didn't want to make this video today. I'm like fiddling with these bobby pins because I don't want to be doing this. This is not to say like force yourself to do things you don't want to do, but this is something that I overall want to be doing. So when it's a small thing within a bigger thing that you do want to be doing, but you don't want to do the small thing, sometimes you just have to force yourself to do those small things. And it's the little victories that will get you there. There's one key thing that I forgot to mention in relation to imposter syndrome and how this cures imposter syndrome. And that is that when you do things consistently, like you make a video every week, for example, you build up this record of your improvement and your work. Like, just to be able to see that you've made however many videos is tangible proof that you are doing this thing that you in your mind think you are not capable of doing, or that you don't have the proper experience to do, or the proper talent to do. So that's a really important way in which consistently and regularly setting and achieving small goals helps to slash imposter syndrome. It's such a useful thing that applies to everything. Like, it helped me clue back into the fact that even if none of my music has gotten as big of an audience as I've wanted, it's so important for me to look back and remember like how much I've improved and how much I've learned. And also to not just focus on these big long-term projects that take a lot of effort and have a lot of build-up around, like making an album, spending 2 years on it and then putting it out, and putting, you know, my entire heart into this expectation that, or this hope that it's gonna be my big thing, and then it isn't. Is like, it's such a torturous emotional roller coaster that doing this actually helped remind me that that's not what it's about. It's about consistently doing the thing and enjoying it, and that's it. And if it goes somewhere, great. And if it doesn't, you still have your enjoyment. Just like with YouTube, I could like make little videos every week and put them on my social media, like playing an instrument or learning a song or something, or writing a little piece of a song. Like, not everything has to be this big, huge, exhausting, terrifying goal, and it can just be these little things that you do regularly that you don't have so much pressure on, and so you can enjoy it more, and it will also ensure that you are actually consistently getting better over time. Because, you know, without doing those like little videos every week, for example, I maybe wouldn't be playing as consistently, or I wouldn't be learning new songs as often, and that would stunt my growth as a musician, because I would just be focusing on like bashing my head against a wall trying to write new songs when there's no like new context for me to explore. So anyway, I am gonna stop rambling, but I hope that this was useful for you. It certainly has been useful for me. Like, I've made 30 videos now. 30. Anyway, now I'm really gonna stop. I am gonna continue cringing off camera at myself while I edit myself. Have a good one, and see you next week with some food.